The Scarlet Spider. 2 issues with this character. 1, Scarlet is not accurate. This is technically a Crimson Spider, because Scarlet is a bright red with a little twinge of green. The second thing, what is this hoodie? Ugh. It is a stupid hoodie. It's a stupid outfit. Why is he wearing a sleeveless hoodie?
Is it worth it?
Go not nerds. The Scarlet Spider is a 4 energy, 5 power card that reads Activate. Add an exact clone of this to another location. Overall impressions, I think this card's going to be pretty good and more versatile than he seems. Now the obvious comparisons here are Mr. Sinister and Brood, which is justified. But if I just had to guess whether or not this card's going to be good or not, which is what these videos are, I would say yes. Of the cards I mentioned earlier that this is similar to, this is probably the best. I mean, it's 10 power for 4 energy as opposed to 6 power for 3 energy or 4 power for 2 energy. That's a big difference. And considering how easy he is to like boost up and add power to, I don't think this card is going to have a hard time finding a home really. With that being said, it might not be like a must-have card. It's not really going to change the meta. But let's jump into the pros and cons of the Crimson Spider. Alright, the first thing here in the good is a 10 power minimum. That's just good. It's basically, as long as you don't play him on turn 6, he's a 10 power 4 cost card with no drawbacks. I mean, I guess the cards being 2 separate lanes is sort of a drawback, but anyways, as opposed to the rest of the 4 drops, the only thing this is behind, as far as I can tell, is Miss Marvel. The second thing, he's easily buffed. There's a lot of cards in the game now that can add power for this guy. Nova Killmonger, America Chavez, Nico Minoru, Forge, Okoye, Nakia? Is that right? Sure. Fastos, Gwenpool. There's a lot of ways you can make this thing bigger than 5 power. Is that overkill? Is that really necessary? Who knows? Probably. Probably this card's just going to end up being like a 10 power card most of the time. Of course, people are going to do silly stuff with it for the first week, but all that stuff sort of fades away after 3 or 4 days. And then the third thing here, makes underplayed cards better. Basically, all those cards I just mentioned, like with Fastos, Okoye, Nakia, they're not really played a whole lot, but the Scarlet Spider makes them like much better in the same way that Beta Ray Bill made Jane Foster much better. I think that's what Scar does for all of those like Okoye type cards. And the last thing is location utility. Earlier I said it's sort of a downside to have him split into 2 lanes because maybe you want 10 power in 1 lane. But really, I think the fact that he's split in 2 lanes is much more of a positive than it is a negative. You can get into locations like Sanctorum, Storm locations, Death's Domain, Altar of Death, all that stuff that you would associate with any other card that can usually get in there. This card can do it. And put pretty decent power there at the same time. The bad, this is a little short of a list because this card is strange. It's not like, oh my god, this card is so sick. It's probably going to be really solid. But when you think about the downsides, it makes you consider how decent this card actually is. Because what are the downsides here? Aside from the first thing here, terrible turn 6 play. Yeah, you can't activate it. Like if you're playing it on turn 6, you can't activate it in the game. So it's just a 5 power card. That sucks. But outside of that, I really was Stretch Armstrong here for the next 2 things. The next one being power creep 4 cost cards. I guess that is a downside. But this card does make a lot of other 4 drops seem kind of silly. Like Omega Red is actually, it's an okay card. It's not good, but it's a playable card. But now with Scarlet Spider, like why would you ever put Omega Red in your deck? Scarlet Spider's just better probably. Or Obsidian, Crossbones, Drax, Jessica Jones, Rescue, all of those cards. It's like, yeah, they add more power to a single lane, but really this card is just sort of makes all those just seem like, what's the point? And I guess that's a downside. And the last point here is, other than those 2 things, I couldn't think of any downsides of this card. If you guys can think of any, leave them in the comment section below, because like I said earlier, I was little Christina Ricci here, and I couldn't really figure out too many downsides other than the turn 6 thing. Alright, a couple of potential deck lists for the Scarlet Spider. The first one here, actually both of these decks are a little like kind of insane, but I wanted to make some extreme examples of how the Scarlet Spider could be used. I think more than likely, like the top you know, 100 players, the people that you see on Twitter that are going to be like, oh, Scarlet Spider's really good, a week from Scarlet Spider's release are probably just going to be some sort of like Storm good cards deck with Scarlet Spider. But the two decks I have here are like extreme examples of what you could do with the card. The first one here is basically like a Scar deck using Shuri to buff up Scarlet Spider. We have Zabu to get out Shuri a turn early, then Scarlet Spider on turn 4. You make 2 10-drops, and then they make Scar cost 2, in which case all you have to do is then play a Crossbones or a Coal or an Arrow, and then make Scar free. So the goal of this deck, as you can see, is Zabu into Shuri into Scarlet Spider and to slam a bunch of power on the last 2 turns of the game. Pretty cool. We have Armor and Cosmo just to be annoying. Same with Echo. Those are basically location semi-control cards that also happen to protect our stuff. Maybe even there could be some sort of Sauron deck with Scarlet Spider and Shuri that just kind of drops the Taskmaster stuff and puts in Scarlet Spider. Maybe that's a thing, but I don't know. Brew with the card, who knows. The next deck here is basically all in on the making things bigger. So Scarlet Spider is anachronistic to Mr. Sinister and Brood, so I made a deck that makes those 3 cards as big as possible. We have Chavez, Nico, Forge, Gwenpool, Iron Lad, and Blue Marvel to all potentially make all those things bigger. And then we have Mockingbird because we're putting a lot of tokens in play. We have Absorbing Man to copy a Brood or a Mr. Sinister. You get it. This deck seems stupid, but like it could probably put out some really sick power sometimes, and then other times it's like, what is this pile of shit? But anyways, I thought it was a funny deck, so I threw it in here. Alright, my overall recommendations on whether or not you should actually spend resources on getting the Scarlet Spider. So as far as tokens go, I think if you have 6k tokens or more just lying around, I think it's a pretty safe pickup. Now I will say next month are some really interesting cards. If you're a discard player, Scorn might be more important to you than Scarlet Spider, so maybe hang on to it. And Scream is also looking to be a pretty cool card. But overall, I would say if you have 6k tokens and you're not really stressed about the resources, Scarlet Spider is probably a very easy pickup because at some point or another in some deck, this card will find a home and it'll be decent. I know this card is not like cards like Nebula or Legion or whatever, just generically good cards that can go into a bunch of decks, but I think that's how safe of a buy this is. It's just, you're going to be happy with it at some point if you pick up this card. Now, as far as keys go, if you don't have White Widow or Scar, spending 4 keys is a little rough. Maybe wait a couple of days and see if Scarlet Spider's really that great. But if you don't have White Widow or Scar, I do think picking up Scarlet Spider is a total fine use of your keys. Second Dinner has a habit of putting cards that they think or they kind of want to push you to try and play together. And I think that's why Scar is here. Scar and Scarlet Spider, if you play with Shuri, is actually very cute. And I think that's why they put Scar here. But other than that, Scar is not really like super important. But if you get him, hey, it's a decent card. White Widow is a very good card. So yeah, for keys, if you don't have Scar or White Widow, absolutely go for it. It's a safe pickup. All right, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Crimson Spider, decent card. Pick it up. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. See you in the next video. Later, nerds.